Hey everybody, it's me, Mr. Crone, with another lesson on our online learning platform. This week we have been talking about animals. We started off by talking about how scientists group animals, specifically into vertebrates and invertebrates. Remember, vertebrates have backbones, invertebrates don't. Then we kind of moved to where do animals get their characteristics. We talked about inherited traits. Those are things that are passed from parents to offspring through reproduction, like things like the color of their skin or their fur, things like size or neck length, or also some behaviors that animals are born with. So today we're going to talk more about the behaviors. So these are things that are passed down from parents to their offspring. Before we begin, though, you need to grab a pencil and a piece of paper. These are going to help you to keep track of your learning. You also need or should find somebody or something to talk to. Remember, you can talk to a parent, a sibling, a pet, even a toy, just something that you can talk out loud to get your ideas out into the open. Remember, that's the best way to learn is by teaching somebody else. So if you want to learn this stuff, you should be teaching it to somebody else. All right, here we go. Our essential question for today: what skills or behaviors help animals survive, and where do they come from? So what skills or behaviors help animals survive, and where do they come from? When I look at this, I see the word survive. Survive means to stay alive. And that's the whole goal of living things. We want to stay alive. Everything we do is to keep us alive. Think about it as humans. We are always eating. We're always hopefully getting exercise, trying to put the best stuff, keep us safe so that we can keep on surviving. That's what living things want to do. Our objective for today is by the end of this lesson, you will be able to compare and contrast learned behaviors and instincts. You will also be able to identify learned behaviors that help animals survive in their environments. So you're going to be able to tell me the difference between learned behaviors and instincts, and also how they're similar. And then also tell me some of the learned behaviors that help animals survive in their environments. To start us off, we have an open-ended question. What are some things that you have learned that help you stay alive? Fortnite doesn't count. So I know some of you say, I play Fortnite. That's not, you did learn that, but it doesn't keep you alive. Where did you learn these things from? So pause the video and write down some of the things that you've learned in your life that keep you alive. All right, welcome back. What behaviors have we learned to help us survive? I bet you came up with a list that might have included like how to eat food, how to wear seat belts maybe in a car. Maybe you wear helmets when you ride your bike, your skateboard, or roller skates, or whatever, your hoverboard. Humans have learned lots and lots of things to help us survive in our environments. One important thing we've learned is how to talk. If we don't know how to talk, we can't communicate very well. And that could cause problems like when we're trying to buy stuff at the store, we don't know how much something costs. It might have problems like at school. You might get into fights because people are misunderstanding each other. So over time, we've learned how to talk. We've also learned how to get water out of the ground. Our bodies need water to survive. And over time, we've realized if you dig holes, remember we talked about this in class, at the bottom, there'll usually be water. That's rainwater that has seeped into the ground. So we've learned how to build wells and get water out of the ground. We've also learned how to grow our own food. We're not like lots of animals who have to hunt for their food. We've actually figured out how to grow it for ourselves. That makes us be able to eat very well, stay really healthy. All these things have helped us survive as humans. But where did these come from? Who taught you how to talk? Who do you think taught other people how to get water out of the ground? So we're going to explore that. On this next slide, you will watch a cool video showing animals doing interesting things. I need you to pay attention to if the animal was born being able to do this skill, or if they had to learn it from their parents or older siblings. So we're going to watch this video, and you're going to have to tell me, was this animal born knowing how to do this skill, or is it something they had to learn from their parents or older siblings? Here it comes.
And finally tonight, 'tis the night before Christmas, and the reindeer are on the move. But they're not the only ones stirring. In fact, there are more than 9 million species on the planet, and just staying alive takes brains as well as brawn. With a never-before-seen look at the creative survival instinct, here's Nightline co-anchor Cynthia McFadden. For the nearly 9 million species that live on planet Earth, the daily struggle to exist requires ingenuity, creativity, and resourcefulness. Using stunning footage culled from over 10,000 hours of material, Nat Geo Wild's new special One Life takes viewers for a never-before-seen look at the animal kingdom.
Every animal basically has that same path. They're born to try to survive. They pass on their genes, and then they die. It's much more complex than that.
Unexpected and surprising animal relationships abound, like the work of this strawberry poison frog that individually carries its newly hatched tadpoles up trees to pools of water.
Whoops. I hope you saw that behavior of the mother frog. She was bringing up each of her tadpoles into puddles and leaves. How do you think this behavior helped that frog survive? I want you to take a second, talk to your brother, sister, pet, toy. How did that behavior help the frog survive? I'd love to hear your ideas, but since this is a video, I can't. What I thought of was there's probably less predators up in the trees for tadpoles. When I think of like predators for tadpoles, I think of like fish that might eat them, like with their big mouths. I think of birds that might swoop down, maybe snakes. In the trees, I bet there's a lot less of those predators. There's no fish for sure. There's probably less snakes. There might be some birds, but they won't be looking in the puddles most likely. So I bet that helps the frogs survive because there's less things to eat their babies. The second part of our question says, do you think that frog was born knowing how to do this? Or did she have to learn it from her mom? So is that something that the frogs just automatically know how to do? Or is it something they have to learn from their parents or older people in their group? I kind of think it's something they probably have to learn. They probably watch their parents do it, and then they know how to do it for when they have their own children. So I think that's an important thing for frogs to help them survive. Here we go. So let's explain what we saw. Focus on what is the difference between learned and inherited behaviors and how these behaviors help animals survive. So while we're looking at these slides, you need to focus on what is the difference between learned behaviors and inherited behaviors and how these behaviors help animals survive, okay? All right, here we go. So a learned behavior. A learned behavior is a skill or trait that an animal is not born with. It is learned from parents or older members of their group. So right here I have a picture of a dog riding a skateboard. If you were in my class, you know we love this dog. We watched it a couple times. This is a learned behavior for this dog. Dogs aren't born knowing how to skateboard. Most dogs never even try it. But this particular dog has learned from his owner how to actually ride a skateboard. That is a learned behavior because the dog was not born with it. Over here you can see, or down here, you can see a raccoon getting food out of a trash can. That is also a learned behavior. Raccoons are not born knowing what a trash can is and what's inside of it. But mother raccoons and father raccoons teach their babies how to find food in trash cans or other places. That's a learned behavior. Over here, this is one you might not think of very often, but this lion is actually teaching her cubs how to hunt. So you can see the cubs are all watching the mother lion hunt this, looks maybe like a water buffalo. And she's actually teaching them how to hunt. Animals, lots of animals are not born knowing how to hunt. That's a learned behavior. It makes sense. Like a baby doesn't go out and hunt right away. They usually have to rely on their parents to get their food for a while. So actually gathering food is mostly a learned behavior. An inherited behavior or an instinct are behaviors that animals are born with, and they do not have to learn these. They can do these behaviors as soon as they are born. So here are some examples of some instincts. Remember, instincts are things that animals or organisms are born knowing how to do. Right here, this is a newborn horse. It's called a foal. You can see that it's already standing up and walking. It is born knowing how to walk. Why might this help an animal survive? Especially like an animal like a horse. Think about it. Oh yeah. Horses are a prey animal. That means they have things that try to eat them. Maybe a wolf, maybe like a mountain lion, depending on where the horse lives. Prey animals need to be able to escape predators as soon as they're born. So many animals like deer, horses, cows, lots of animals that are prey animals are born with the instinct to walk and run. That way, as soon as danger comes, they're able to escape. They don't have to learn this skill. In this picture, you can see a spider spinning a web. Spiders building webs are actually instincts. Scientists have observed that spiders' babies actually never see their mom again. The mom lays eggs in a big sack made out of silk. Once the eggs are ready, they hatch. You might have seen this in with Wilbur the pig. You know that book. Charlotte's Web. That's exactly right. And the babies float away, and they don't see their mom again, but they already know how to make a web. That's how they get their food. So that's an instinct that spiders have. They don't have to learn that from their parents. This is one that babies, humans, our instinct, crying. As soon as babies are born, they know how to cry. This is something that they've inherited from their parents. It's an instinct, and actually is really important. Babies cry to communicate with their parents that they need food, that maybe they need to be loved, that they have a dirty diaper. That is something that they don't learn. They're just born knowing how to do. That's an instinct. It's important because if babies had to learn how to talk before they could get food or what they need, they wouldn't have a good chance of surviving. So instincts, remember, are things that animals, people are born with, whereas learned behaviors, it's in the name, are things that animals and people have to learn. One example of this is migration. Migration is an inherited behavior, an instinct. Migration takes place when a group of animals leaves one place and then goes to another place and then returns to the starting place. So they leave and then come back. This is usually due to climate change or change in food availability. You probably have heard of migration before. Lots of animals do it to change from a colder environment to a warmer environment in the winter and then come back to their starting place. So for example, these are Canadian geese. Canada is north of the United States, and it often gets pretty cold there in the wintertime, even colder than where we live. So these geese will spend their summers hunting, getting food in Canada, but once winter starts coming, they head south, usually to Mexico. So they migrate where the temperatures are warmer, they can still find food until it comes back to summertime again in Canada, and they'll head back to Canada to where they came from to get their food. That is a inherited behavior. Actually, scientists have discovered that geese and other animals don't actually have to learn to migrate. It's just a natural instinct that they have. Hunting, we talked about this already. Hunting is a learned behavior. When most animals are young, they are not able to hunt for their own food. But as animals get older, they learn to hunt food by watching their parents and practice hunting by playing with their siblings. So actually, you think these tigers are just playing, but they're actually practicing for hunting. So you can kind of see this one's got her paws out, pouncing on the other one. Lots of animals practice hunting by playing with their brothers or sisters. Hunting, learned behavior. Hibernation. Hibernation is actually a learned behavior. So when animals hibernate, their bodies begin to slow down and become really inactive. So kind of like a really, really deep sleep. Hibernation usually happens during the winter when food sources are mostly gone. So many animals hibernate during the winter time because they have a hard time finding food. There's less animals like rabbits or squirrels. There's less plants to eat. So what their body does is it slows way down. And this helps because that means the body doesn't need as much energy to survive. Remember where we get energy from? Yeah, food. So the body's using less energy, so it doesn't need as much food, which means that the bear doesn't have to go hunting very often. Many people think that hibernation lasts, like they start at the beginning of winter and ends at the end. That's not quite true. Hibernation actually happens about 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So a bear will hibernate for about 2 or 3 weeks, then find some food, then go back to sleep or hibernate for a couple more weeks. So it's not like it's a whole winter that they hibernate. It's just usually a couple weeks at a time. As you can see, hibernation is a behavior that helps this bear survive. Another example of a instinct is herds, traveling in herds. A herd is a group of animals living together. Traveling in herds helps protect the animals from predators because the herd, all this whole group, can work together to scare off or even injure a predator. Traveling herds is actually a learned behavior. Remember that when a baby's born, they usually stick close to their mom. So if their mom is part of a herd, the baby learns the benefit of staying with the herd. If a lion came and tried to attack all these zebras, they'd be able to work together to scare off or even maybe kick or attack the lion or the predator to keep everybody safe. So they found that working in a group is increasing their chance of surviving and passing on their traits to the next generation. So in your own words, I need you to describe the difference between a learned behavior and an inherited trait. So if you need to go back in the video and watch that section over again, you may, or you probably have in your brain already. So I want you to pause the video and write down in a complete sentence using race the difference between a learned behavior and an inherited trait. Cool, welcome back. Real quick, check if your brain's focusing on the right thing. A dog learning to sit is an example of instinct, learned behavior, inherited trait. Pick your answer. A baby deer being able to walk as soon as it is born is an example of instinct, learned behavior, or inherited trait. What do you think? Good. I hope for number one that you said that a dog learning to sit is an example of a learned behavior. Dogs don't know how to sit on command until somebody teaches them. I know because my dog barely ever does it. And a deer being able to walk as soon as it's born is an instinct, right? Because nobody taught it that. It was born knowing how to do that. For our expand, you're going to go to this website and pick a learned behavior to research. When you're finished, you're going to write a short paragraph explaining the learned behavior and how it helps that animal survive. So you're going to click on this link, go to the website, and you are going to read about some learned behaviors. You are going to write a paragraph explaining the learned behavior that you chose. So there is habituation, which is a type of learning that animals respond to a stimulus, just like a treat. So some animals learn based on like a treat. So an animal learning to hunt learns that if it does this behavior, it gets a treat, food. So you might want to write about that kind of learned behavior. Sensitization is the opposite of habituation. So in this way of learning, animals learn to react more often to a strongly repeated stimulus. So something that happens over and over and over and over again. So if, for example, a dog has a shock collar on, it's a collar that if they cross a line, they'll shock their neck. If they keep on crossing that line over and over again, they're going to keep on getting shocked. Eventually, they're going to learn that that's painful and they need to stop. So instead of it being a positive learning, it's a negative. So again, you can keep on reading about the different kinds of learned behaviors and how they happen. You're going to write a paragraph about it. And head back to our lesson. For your exit ticket today, you're going to use a Venn diagram and put these behaviors in the correct category. So you're going to put learned over here and instinct over here. So I need you to draw a Venn diagram on your paper, and I need you to put the behaviors where it goes. Learned, instinct. Hibernation, is that a learned or an instinct? Crying, is that learned or instinct? Hunting, is that learned or instinct? Walking when born, learned or instinct? Doing a trick for a treat, learned or instinct? And then farming, learned or instinct? When you're done, please write your name on your paper and put it in the envelope that you're going to send back to school so I can check that you're doing your work. I really hope that you're safe and well. We're almost to the end of our year, which is wild. I hope you're staying safe. I miss you guys. Bye.